Hey, eighth graders, this is Ms. Johnson. I'm here today to kind of talk to you a little bit and review you on APES. That's what we use for our SARs, our short answer response questions. And so hopefully you remember this, but if not, it's okay. I'm going to go all through it for you. All right. Hold on 1 second. Let me get everything set up. Okay, so APES for SARs is what we're doing, okay, eighth grade? So what is APES? We're not talking about the animal. We're talking about APES as in an organizational system and a writing strategy. It's a great way to organize your responses to what you read in class. And APES can be used on any longer assignment and in any class that requires reading, so all of them. It's great for science and for social studies, as well as math, history. That's not social studies. You guys know what I'm talking about, all right? So how do we do APES? Let's see. So the A stands for answer the question. You want to make sure that you understand the question, look up any unknown words that you don't understand in the dictionary, and make sure you actually answer the question provided. So yes, you are expected to use the dictionary when you're doing APES. Answer what you're asked, not what you think you're being asked, all right? Make sure you know. P, you're going to prove the answer, but text evidence. What is evidence? That's a quote or information from the text that supports your answer. And you know when you do a quote, you use quotation marks, all right? E is for explain your answer. This is when you take it a step further. You've answered your question, you've provided a quote from the text, now you have to talk about or write about it. You think of it as making a connection to life or the big picture. Think of it as you're having to explain to your teacher why you use that proof. Almost pretend that we don't understand, all right? Really break it down for us. S is summarize by restating your answer. So you're going to rephrase your initial answer to the question. Don't use in conclusion, but do not present new ideas or information. Try to stay focused on the idea and avoid wondering. Stay on topic, all right? This is where you show that you've wrapped it all up, sum it up. All right, here's some tips for APES. Think of APES as a mini conversation. When you ask somebody when someone gives you an answer to a question, you want them to prove themselves and explain why they're correct. That's all you're doing with APES. You're proving why you are correct. You're going to avoid using first and second person. Talk about the story. It's not about you, it's about the story. Focus on the characters, the action, the plot, the setting, whatever, but not on you and what you think. All right. And so now let's practice. So I have a short story here called Appointment in Samara. And when I say short, I mean short. And so we're going to read this short story and we're going to answer a question. And our question is, what is the theme of the story? Support your answer using textual evidence. So when I break down my question, I already know that textual evidence is evidence or proof from the story. So I'm going to look for some kind of quote that's going to prove my answer. What am I answering though? And it says, what is the theme of the story? Well, theme, that's the message. That's the moral. It's what you as the reader or one of the characters in the story learn. So I'm looking for what someone, whether it's myself or a character in the story, learns. And I'm looking for proof as to what they learned. Okay. So here's my story. And the speaker in this story is Death. So there was a merchant in Baghdad who sent his servant to market to buy provisions, and in a little while the servant came back, white and trembling, and said, "Master, just now when I was in the marketplace, I was jostled by a woman in the crowd, and when I turned, I saw it was Death that jostled me. She looked at me and made a threatening gesture. Now lend me your horse, and I will ride away from this city and avoid my fate. I will go to Samara, and there Death will not find me." The merchant lent him his horse, and the servant mounted it, and he dug his spurs in its flanks, and as fast as the horse could gallop, he went. Then the merchant went down to the marketplace, and he saw me standing in the crowd, and he came to me and said, "Why did you make a threatening gesture to my servant when you saw him this morning?" "That was not a threatening gesture," I said. "It was only a start of surprise. I was astonished to see him in Baghdad, for I had an appointment with him tonight in Samara." All right, so if I had this on a piece of paper, I would actually go through and annotate it. So I would circle some things and highlight some things like the characters. There's the merchant, there's Death, there's the servant, I would make sure I understood the word provisions and what does that mean, and the word jostled. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to look those up, but you would need to do that if you were doing this for real, okay? So when you do your own, make sure you know what all the words in the story mean, as well as the words in the question. All right? So my question, remember, it was the theme. What is the theme of the story? So I answered it. The theme of Appointment in Samara by W. Somerset Maugham is that no one can escape death. I want you to notice some things about the way I answered the question. I restated the question before I answered it. My question was, what is the theme? My answer starts with the theme of. So you know I'm still talking about the theme. And in the question, it says, what is the theme of the story? So in my answer, I put the name of the story. It's always a good idea to restate the name of the story, to state the author's name. So that way your reader knows you're actually talking about what selection you're actually talking about. And of course, you want to restate your question so they know what question you're answering. And then my answer to the actual question is in bold. No one can escape death. But the way I wrote it, it's all one complete sentence. So the theme of Appointment in Samara by W. Somerset Maugham is that no one can escape death. All right, so there's my answer. Now I have to prove my answer, right, with text evidence. So the servant thought he could escape death by traveling to Samara when death was in Baghdad, but death tells the merchant that he was to meet the servant in Samara. So really, that's kind of a little synopsis. It's kind of summarizing what happened, but I haven't proven my answer. I'm just kind of telling you what's going on. Now I'm going to actually prove my answer, because I say in the climax of the story, death says, I was astonished to see him in Baghdad, for I had an appointment with him tonight in Samara. So there's my actual proof, my actual text evidence that this is how you know no one can escape death. Okay? Now I have to explain it. So how does that all go together? So this quote shows that death is unavoidable, because even when the servant thought he was hiding from death, he was actually completing the arrangements death had already made. So really, I'm just kind of breaking it down. It's like when you explain something for your friend who you don't think is too bright. You break it down for him, right? Same thing. All right. And now I'm going to summarize by restating my original answer. I'm not going to use the same words, but I'm going to give you the same idea. Okay. So the merchant and servant in the story learn that death is unavoidable despite your actions. Remember at the beginning, I said that theme is the lesson you learn, or that the characters learn in the story. And so I told you exactly which characters in the story learn a lesson. The merchant and the servant in the story, they learn. And then I told you what lesson that they learn. Death is unavoidable despite your actions. And that's basically the same thing as that no one can escape death, right? So there you go. That's how you do an SAR using APES. Any questions? All right. Until next time. Bye.